First, let's pay homage to the three lineage gurus. Homage to the Venerable Monk Liao Ming. Homage to Master Sakya Zeng Kong. Homage to His Holiness the 16th Karmapa. And homage to Master Dukten Darje. Homage to the three jewels of the altar. And homage to the main deity of group practice today, Amitabha Tathagata. And homage to Kuan Yin Bodhisattva. Homage to Mahastama Prapta Bodhisattva. All Dhamma masters, Dhamma educators, Dhamma teachers, Dhamma instructors, Dhamma assistants, directors of temples and chapters, and all disciples present here and over the internet. Our participating VIPs today are Madam Ambassador Daniel Liao, the Taipei rep to Sweden and Norway, and Madam Liao, Dhamma Sister Judy. It's been a long time since Ambassador Daniel Liao been back. He's getting busier now in Sweden because he's also the rep for Norway, Sweden and Norway. His practice is going really well. Every time he practices, he would be able to see light. And the accountant to the True Buddha Foundation, Dhamma Sister Teresa. And she is our greatest accountant for the school. Very important. And producers for the Geni Gensang Shinten, the Illuminating Your Heart from CTI TV Taiwan. And Dr. Ryan Zhuang. And also many disciples from faraway places. Good evening, everybody. So we practice Amitabha Buddha as the Yidam. And Amitabha Buddha guided Master Lien Han to the Buddha land, the Pure Land. Master Lien Han is the elder of our school. He's been with us for a long time. I remember when I was living in Taiping, Taichung, the Jingwu Villa. At that time, there were only 2 houses at the Jingwu Villas, and they are connected. The one in the front was lived by the ancient master, and the one at the back, I lived in it. So we shared the same wall. One was the residence of Master Inshin, and the other one was mine. And in front, there was an electric pole, and the rest was just grassland. No other houses then. And it was called the Jinwu Biesu. So that was a very far away place. So at that time, Master Lian Han was very young. And together with Lian Hui Lama were wondering about the electric pole. That was the first time. And there was an attendant to the Master In Sun. And asked them, "Are you looking for In Sun Dao Si?" And they said, no, they were looking for Seng Yen Lu. So asked them to sit inside, and then they left. At that time, I didn't want to meet anyone. And because they stayed around, so we opened our front door and let them in. That was the first time I saw Master Lian Han. Long time ago. After seeing them, I encouraged them to go back to Hong Kong to set up a chapter. And they set up the Xinhua chapter, a very small one. And they moved several places. And eventually it became the Hong Kong Lei Zhang Temple. This was from a long time ago. After a journey of this training, that Master Lian Han has now left the world. And we are 1 year apart. So Master Lian Han was 1 year older than I am. So according to Taiwanese year, he's 74 and I'm 73. There's a saying that seeing other people die, your heart is like burning like fire. It's not for them, but it's for yourself. Seeing other people die, your heart is burning like fire, and the heat is not for the dying people, but wondering when it would be my time. That's why life is short. It's just like making a phone call. If it's not you who hangs up first, then it would be I. And then a toilet paper that's this thick, and you think that you can use it for a long time, but you use it and you pull it, and before you know it, it's gone. What's left is just the roll, and then you need to change the new one. So Master Lian Han's passing was full of suffering. So I spent quite a few days. And before he passed away, we got the news that all of a sudden he saw the deities at his altar disappeared. All of them disappeared. The deities on his altar. So in Tantrayana, that is the sign or the omen of death, that it's time to die. So if a spiritual cultivator sees that all the deities at his home disappeared, that's a really bad omen. And then he saw the thousands of generals and soldiers of the XX hall appeared in front of him. That's quite scary. In Japanese, it's called kohai. Very scary. When I saw that, I was quite anxious because the X Hall was going to capture Master Lien Han. I told a lot of disciples at the True Buddha Foundation, why didn't he chant the Namo 36,119,500 Buddhas by the same name and identification of Amitabha? Why didn't he recite that 36 trillions? You know, yet the X Hall doesn't have 36 trillions. Maybe there are tens of millions of them, but not as much as 36 trillions, because we have 36 trillions, 119,500 Amitabha Buddhas. Why didn't you recite this? I was quite anxious then. I told the disciples at the True Buddha Foundation, why didn't he recite that? If you heard that, please raise your hand. It's the one that we recite every day. At that time, you have to recite this. It doesn't matter how many the ghosts of X Hall are. They are not as many as the 36 trillions Amitabhas. It doesn't matter how many people there are on earth, they are not as many as the 36 trillion Amitabha Buddhas. He should have been able to save himself, but he forgot to recite this. So that's why when you are in delusion, when you're in a coma, you really lost control. You can't even remember to recite the 36,119,500 Amitabha Buddhas. Many people ask, Grandmaster, where did this statement come from? From Amitabha Buddha, wrong. The Pure Land Book. It's Nagarjuna's Pure Land article. when I read this book, there was this statement, this sentence, and then I used this, and I put it in my book, and I'm teaching everyone to recite it. 龙树净土文
是从哪一本书出来的？
It came from that book.
阿弥陀佛，因为什么呢？因为那一本书写到，有一个老太婆发愿，
Because in that book,
要念完
there was an old lady that made a vow that she would finish reciting Amitabha Buddha as much as the grain of rice in a barrel. So every time she recited once, she would take a grain of rice. And she's getting weaker and weaker. And then she looked at there's still lots of rice in that barrel. And she hasn't finished it. And she became panicky. And she kept reciting Amitabha Buddha. And with one recitation, she took a grain of rice. And she was very panicky. What should she do? And she was praying with earnestness. And the Buddha appeared in front of the elderly lady. And I'm teaching you, please recite 36,119,500 Buddhas with the same name and identification of Amitabha Buddha. And when the old lady recited that, and she could pour the whole barrel of rice, of course, there were not 36 trillion rice grains in that barrel, but she finished it. And then Amitabha Buddha guided this old lady to be reborn into the Western paradise of the Pure Land.
所以我讲过，念追记胜过。
So that's why I said that by reciting this sentence, this statement would win over reciting others way more. So this is what I discovered in this book. The
我们平时可以念，
净土文。
但是也不能投机取巧。你以为说一天念一句就可以？平时还是要。
You think that by reciting it
到了要紧的时候
once a day is enough? No, that's not the case. You still have to recite Amitabha Buddha with sincerity every day, but only at the critical time. You can recite. The 36 trillion statement recitation. So I work really, really hard, and with lots of work, I helped Master Lian Han, protected him, around him, and to chase away all the ghosts of the ex-hall. And then I taught Master Lian Yue that was over there, and to write the mantra of Amitabha Buddha. It's not something that I can teach very lightly, because you would use it haphazardly. Write it on his palm, or on his heart, or on his head, and to mark or to seal it with this mantra syllable that belonged to Amitabha Buddha. And this morning I especially did a practice for him. And Amitabha Buddha told me that he's been brought by Amitabha Buddha to his Pure Land. Else he would have fallen into the realm of the ghost. I feel really Amitabha Buddha, be compassionate. And the compassionate Guan Yin Bodhisattva, the compassionate Mahaprapta Bodhisattva. Frankly speaking, Grandmaster can barely bear it anymore. Every day there are so many people asking for repurification, and everyone is suffering greatly. Many disciples suffered from their disturbances. It's quite a hardship for them. There are so many people wanting to die or to kill themselves. There are many people who can't sleep at night. And there are some who suffer from illnesses. And there are many who died of accidents. Even Master Lian Han saw the troops of soldiers of ghost soldiers and horses, and the deities at his altar disappeared. Someone who had practiced and cultivated spiritually for many years, and an old disciple of many years, and he was almost seeing him like this, I thought of myself. We should think of ourselves that at that moment, are we able to be lucid and clear-minded, that you can still be mindful of your own yidam and to be mindful of the three sages of the Western paradise. Can you change yourself to become a home character? Can you think of an ah syllable that's transformed from the space, and in a split of a second you become the ah syllable, and you can be guided by your yidam? This is a very important lesson. Today, we all have taken this very important lesson that a human being in fast coma and in illnesses, can you maintain the bright light inside your heart? Can you maintain your lucidity and clear mind? We pray to Amitabha Tathagata that each of your disciples can be mindful, can think of their yidams or personal deities at the critical moment, so that the yidam can appear and guide us to the pure Buddha lands and never to return or fall into the rebirth realm, and to ultimately attain Buddhahood. We pray to the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, Herukas, Dhammapalas, Dakinis, and divinities can help all of us, to grant us power, to give us a lucid and clear mind, so that we know our way back home. At this moment in time, Master Yan Han is with us tonight. After he's gone to the Pure Land, he was thinking of his lineage guru. At the moment of his death, he shed tears. So here, Grandmaster felt his presence. Because he shed tears, that's why I could feel it, and I was affected by it. So that's the feeling between guru and disciple, the connection between guru and disciple. He's an old disciple that's followed for a long time. Of course, there were some twists and turns in between, but he's still an old disciple. And he was also thinking of his lineage guru, and his lineage guru was thinking of him too.
们再来讲道果哈，讲一点道果。
Let's continue to talk about
在
Lamdre.
因位的时候，以上
At
师
the
如法
causal
获得
position,
灌顶故，
having the
为
potential
方便
on the
续
causal
中之
continuum
初因
upon
观，
empowerment and cultivation.
其中之教是依本颂于身方便续
After purification and treatments, one can
四
attain
三座
fruition.
等等因观，
The bodily methods continuum is
知
divided
分
into
意
5
为
parts
颂
of
中身
instructions.
方便续，以心含场上具有能升起圆满菩提果之能力种子，或因之理趣，依灌顶等道之缘起，会
So
即
through the
身之能
empowerment,
证之方便。
the skillful means related to the bodily
其实这一
cultivation are
句呢，
causal
解释
empowerment.
应该是很简单。依照
At
根
the
本上
causal
师呢，
position, due to the proper
给
empowerment
你
by the
做
root guru,
如法的
it is
观点，
referred as the causal
有
empowerment.
这
The
个
methods
原因，
continue. So,
就
by
是方
receiving
便，
the proper
就是方便
empowerment
自己的
by the
修
root
行。
guru,
你是
it
因为灌顶
would
才能够修行，
be convenient for your
得
spiritual
依照
cultivation,
灌
which
顶
means you
当
can
中的
only cultivate
一种
spiritually
教示，
upon receiving empowerments.
由你
So
的
it's the kind of
身体
teaching.
去方便去修行，
So you use the
等等
body
之
to
因观，
practice
也就是
and
变
all
成
the
你身方
related
便。因为
empowerments
你受了
that
灌
would
顶，
become the bodily
你
methods.
身体能够依照
Because
根
you have
本上师的
received
指示去修
empowerments, so your body can practice according to the instructions of the
是
lineage
因为
guru.
你的身体用
And
佛
because
法
your
的这些方
body,
便法，你能够修，
because
使你
the
自己
skillful means or the convenient methods of Buddha Dharma is
跟心
applied upon your body,
含藏的佛性，
and because your
能
body and
够
mind
升起圆
is the
满菩
potential
提
of the
果
Buddha
的
nature,
能力种子。
it is the seed or
那
the
意思
cause
是
that has the
说，
ability and
你
interest
的
to
身
generate
体是
perfect
能
body
够
fruit.
证明到这些的。
So your body can
这
affirm
个颂
or
中
confirm all this.
之等字含摄深思绪，以后再述，
The-
后面会再跟大家解释。
And in the word,
心
the
为
verse, the word,
轮
and
内之
such
根
implied bodily explanation
你的心
continuum, which
就
will
是
be explained
轮回
later.
或
And
涅
the
槃
mind
的
is the
根本，
basis of either rebirth or nirvana,
以缘起汇聚于身，而能起正悟于内。
having the
本来
affinity
是
to
你身
focus
体
on
去
the
受灌
body
顶，
and come to realizations
但是呢，
eternally, is
你
called the
能够
bodily explanation continuum.
最后呢，你
So
能
your
够
body is the
证悟
one that
到自
receives
己内
empowerment.
心的佛性。
But ultimately, you can attest to the Buddha nature
这个
inside your
颂中不
mind,
是有
inside your heart.
四三座等等因观，
And in
这
the
个座
verse,
是
there
就
was
是本
also
尊的座，
the referral
升
of
起
the
本尊的意思，
three,
升起
four
本尊的
seats.
意思。
It's
颂
referred
中
to the seat of the
前
horizon
等字
Yidam.
是活于菩萨的座，或
And
者
in the
明
verse,
非
the first
天理的座，
occurrence of the
怒
word
怒
as
男女
such
的座，
referred to the seats of the Buddhas and
称为
Bodhisattvas,
三
the
座
seats of
啊
the
称为三
consorts
座。
and goddesses, and the
也
seats
就
of
是
the
说，你在
wrathful
修法
males
当
and
中
females,
有
altogether
佛
three
跟
seats.
菩萨的座，有
So in
明
your
非跟
practice,
天理的座，
there are seats
有
of the
愤
Buddhas
怒
and
男女的
Bodhisattvas,
座。什
seats
么
of
叫做愤怒
consorts
男女
and
呢？
goddesses, and seats of wrathful males and females.
就
And
是愤怒
what
尊
are the
男
wrathful
的
males
愤
and
怒尊
females?
跟你的愤怒尊，
They are the
好
wrathful
像我们修大
male
威德金
deities
刚，
and
那大威
wrathful
德就是
female
愤怒尊，
deities.
那
Like
他
when
的
we
佛母
practice Yamantaka, Yamantaka is the
就是
wrathful male deity,
妙音天，妙音
and his
妙音
consort
天 就是他的佛母。
Lokeswara
是这样子的。
is his consort.
那妙音天女那时候所显现的，也就是你的愤怒真。
And Lokeswara appeared as the wrathful female deity.
护法，明辉天女。
So wrathful males and females refer to the protectors.
明辉天女。
And consorts and goddesses. Another kind of emanation. Only in Tantrayana there are consorts and goddesses. That's how you classify them.
"他这里讲解啊，这个后等字为三秘密法坛城。
The second and third refer to the three secret altars, each of which include three kinds. The fourth three in the verse refer to base on which empowerment, receiving what empowerment, and how purity is contaminated. For example, three kinds of things for each of the four empowerments. Like how do we eliminate greed in Tantrayana? You use the three secret altars. So Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, consorts and goddesses, and wrathful male and female deities. They are considered the secret altars. In Mahayana Buddhism, in order to eliminate greed, anger, and delusion, you use precepts, meditation, and wisdom. By abiding to the precepts, you can eliminate greed. If you can have meditative stability, then you can overcome anger and hatred. If you have wisdom, then you can overcome your ignorance and delusion. So precepts, wisdom, precepts, meditative stability, and wisdom can remedy greed, anger, and delusion. And in Tantrayana, in order to eliminate greed, the true greed, then you use greed to remedy greed. In order to eliminate the anger, you use anger to remedy anger, and you use delusion to remedy delusion. So that's a very special remedies in Tantrayana. So greed, anger, and delusion, that's why we say they are also Buddha Dharma. So that's why sex, anger, and ignorance also Buddha Dharma. And they are in two sutras. One is the Sutra of Perfect Parinirvana. And also Avatamsaka Sutra. And at the Buddha's era, and also the Vimalakirti, who's at the same eras as the Buddha, in the Vimalakirti Sutras was also recorded. That sex, anger, and ignorance can counterbalance greed, anger, and delusion.
由何谈成呢？由何谈成？像瓶罐。
Based on what kind of empowerment, like the vase empowerment,
独永本尊及九尊等三座圆满，
and the solitary deity.
在第一个瓶罐里面
and in the first vase empowerment,
到本尊啊，我们中国
that's the perfect yidam and the solitary yidam. So True Buddha School's empowerment is up to yidam. And the three higher empowerments, that's the second level empowerment, and the third level empowerment, and the fourth level empowerment. So those were three higher empowerments, including the three kinds of empowerments: bodily channels, characters, bodhicitta altar, bodhicitta, and wisdom potential chi. So these three kinds of empowerments, together with the four kinds of altars, by the vase empowerment, then it would be the perfect yidam and solitary yidam. And receiving the empowerments of the three higher empowerments. In Tibetan Tantrayana, altar is very important. As I said, the sand mandala, the syllables or character or mantra mandala, and also the deities mandala. So the sand mandala is mandala created using sand, and the mantra mandala that's filled with the mantra syllables, and then also deity mandala, which is from the statues of all the deities. And what is the solitary deity? In the vase empowerment, they are all solitary deities. So for the vase empowerment, they are all solitary deities, which is in single body.
这第一项，他安立圆满无疑本尊座，佛座于中央，菩萨座于内环方偶。
In this perfect
altar,
the main deity is at the center, and then in the consort mandala, the consort is at the middle. The sound of the microphone is not that good.
我们安立的这个莲华生大师，他坐在中央。
So, for example, Padmasambhava altar or mandala, Padmasambhava is at the center. On his right would be Ishicokal, the consort, his consort. On his right, and Mandarawa on his left. So with two consorts. And there's some people that say that the wisdom consort from the sky and the karma mudra, the physical consort. So they call them as the two consorts. So different ways of explaining it.
这个就等于是在讲坛城了哈，讲所有诸尊的坛城，愤怒男女座以外，
So this is all the altars.
圣乐37尊、密集32尊的
So
布置。
how to set up the mandala
好像汤卡也是用这个方法去
for the many deities. So how they paint the tanka, they use this method to paint or to create the tanka. There are rules for it.
这里面有讲说，独永本尊及九尊等三座一清净安利三座圆满，一加持事业安利三座圆满。这个都属于可以讲，就是讲坛城怎么样子制作坛城。明辉应该在哪个位置
how you create the altar, the placement of the consort, of the goddesses, of the main deity. We're all talking about the altar here.
我们平时不是有时候会照到波月光吗？
Sometimes when we take pictures, there's the like prajna light, and if you enlarge it, inside it there's an altar. So the heaven is round and the earth is square. So in the ancient time, the Chinese always say, the heaven is round, the earth is square, and I command in the night. So typically, outside is square, inside is round. And the prajna light that we have in the photos is round, and when you enlarge it, there are many lines. And at the center, that's the main deity, the yidam. So have you seen the enlarged prajna light? There are many lines inside it. And the one at the middle is the yidam. So he descended following the mandala to match the sand mandala that you created. This is a photo of the prajna light. Who took the picture?
莲满上次拍到的。
Oh, Master Lian Man.
这个是波月光把它放大。
So that's the enlargement of the prajna light.
里面就是一个坛城。
So inside it is a mandala, an altar.
中间就是本尊的在里面。
At the center, at that dot, that's the yidam, the main deity.
波月光给它放大变成这样。
So that's how it looks when the prajna light is enlarged.
这非常清楚。你看中间的那是本尊的法座在那里。
At the center, that's the yidam.
我们有一个例子跟大家讲。
We have an example to tell everyone. We have Vajradhatu Mandala and Dharmadhatu Mandala. So Dharmadhatu Mandala is the mandala of the causal ground, and Vajradhatu Mandala is the fruit mandala. So the causal mandala is at the start of your spiritual cultivation. That's called the Dharmadhatu. Once you attain fruition through your spiritual cultivation, then that becomes Vajradhatu Mandala. They're considered mandala. So what's mentioned here, all about mandalas. So when you took a picture of a prajna light, enlarge it, and you would be able to see a mandala, a beautiful mandala.
大家注意到了，有最高的佛的曼陀罗。
So pay attention. The mandalas of the highest kind, of the Buddhas, of the Bodhisattvas, of the Herukas, and of all the deities. And also of the consorts of the celestial goddesses, and also the Heruka, male Herukas, and the Herukas consorts. There was a picture of thousands of mandalas, which meant thousands of the deities descended together. Some was based on the 3 seeds. That's also a kind of mandala.
这里面呢，有5蕴的清净者。
And inside it, also the pure sadhakas,
8世清净为菩萨座，5大种清净为明辉座，
and the bodhisattvas and the 5 purities as the consort seeds.
8大关节、足心、顶轮等10处清净为愤怒男女座，愤怒男女座。
And the wrathful males and female seeds, which are the herukas. So dakas and dakinis. And the goddess seeds, which is what we often recite to offer to the 4 guardian mothers the 8 the dakinis of the 8 directions and the goddesses of the 20 heavens. So the 4 guardian consorts, they are consorts, and the dakinis of the 8 directions are also consorts, and the goddesses. That's the place of the herukas is at the tip of the crown chakra, is the place of the herukas, and also at all the joints. And at the bottom of the feet or the soles, at the center of the soles, and the 8 great joints, like the joints here and here, are the places of the herukas or the vajra protectors. If you understand massages, then you would know where the joints are. Like the joints on our legs, on our arms, these are important joints, and here on the shoulders, and these are the smaller joints on the wrist, and the smallest joints on our fingers. These are all joints. That's the dwelling of the herukas or vajra protectors. So Grandmaster's Mahabala is on this Grandmaster's joint. So Mahabala is at this joint. What we talk about today about Lamdre was about mandala. Lamdre is very complex and complicated. I didn't want to talk about this. You explain so much about mandala, about Sen mandala, mantra mandala, and Yida mandala, and all those things comprising the mandala. And in Japan, that's the Dhammadhatu and Vajradhatu mandalas. With just that one explanation, it's quite clear. And mandalas were also based on the sutras. How to set up a mandala. It's all based on the sutras. It's not just something that you paint or you like. So it's like the instructions by the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. And based on the sutras, how to create the mandalas, so you cannot create mistakes with the mandalas. Like for Vajrakilaya or Dorje Purba's 13 deities, Guru Padmasambhava was about to transmit it to his consort Ishi Chogal. He set up 13 deity mandala, and there was a mistake. So he could not invoke 13 Dorje Purba deities in order to transmit it to Ishi Chogal. So that's why the Dorje Purba empowerment that Ishi Choga received was not complete, because the mandala that she created was not mistake-free. So there was a mistake in the mandala that she created. There are 3 brothers who were drinking hot liquor, and when they were slightly drunk, the eldest one said, "Oh, the lamb is swinging really hard." And the second brother said, that, "How come I feel that the chair is always rocking?" And the youngest one said, "How come when I walk, it's always slanting?" And at this time, a neighbor knocked on the door and entered. "Fools, there's earthquake, go and hide or save yourself." So there was an earthquake and not getting drunk. So that's why we want to be clear. Don't think that you drink some alcohol and you think, and you get out and you see the moon and there are 3 moons. Actually, the moon is only one. You cannot draw 3 moons. So for mandala, it has to be authentic. If it is true and authentic, then the deity will descend upon the mandala. But the highest empowerment is the body mandala. And what is the body mandala? Is when a human being has cultivated spiritually and gained spiritual union with the 5 Buddhas, with Vairocana Buddha, Akshoba Buddha, Amitabha Buddha, Amoghasiddhi Buddha, and Ratnasambhava Buddha. If you gain spiritual union with the 5 Buddhas, then the 5 Buddhas are on your body, inside your body. At the brow point, Vairocana Buddha; at the throat chakra, Amitabha Buddha; at the heart chakra, Akshoba Buddha; at the navel chakra, Ratnasambhava Buddha; at the secret chakra, it's Amoghasiddhi Buddha. And all the herukas are where? Are on your joints, as I mentioned earlier. And which bodhisattvas on your ears, on your, eyes, ears, nose, mouth, tongue, they are bodhisattvas. Which bodhisattva? They are bodhisattvas dwelling on the mouth and tongue and all these places. There's a song in Taoism. So, at the channels inside the body, there are 36,000 gods. If you can practice until all the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, Herukas, Dhammapalas, Dakinis, and divinities can dwell inside your body, then that would be called the body mandala. Then you can be in spiritual union with all the deities. Then your body would become the body mandala. And at this time, you can give empowerment at any time. So whatever empowerment requested can be conferred, but you still have to follow the procedure. You can only do that when you reach the highest realm. Otherwise, it's impossible. So even in the Taoist song, it exists. Inside the body, there are 36,000 gods. And
有36000神在你的身上，那就是身曼陀罗。
There are 36,000 deities inside your body, then that's body mandala. Once you prove that your body is a body mandala, you can use your body to give empowerment upon disciples, and that would be the highest kind of empowerment, the most supreme, the most superior.
有一天，我们全家去旅游。
One day, our whole family went on a trip, and we bought a lot of stuff home. Mom brought shoes, I bought some novels, but Dad didn't buy anything. But he said, "Your mom bought shoes, and you bought books. I am the most economical. You didn't buy anything." And the little kid replied, "Oh, you paid the bills." So he bought everything. So what it meant is that if all the Buddhas and deities can enter into your body and be seated at their places, in the future, I will expound on which bodhisattvas dwelling on our eyes, our ears, our nose, our mouth, our tongue. They're all in the sutras. If you check the sutras, you would know. The wife asked her husband, "So who's the head of our family?" And the husband replied, "Of course it's you, honey." And the wife was smiling, "How about you?" And he replied, "Just a tad difference." And the wife got angry. "What do you mean?" "Which one? So are you the king of the family?" Or just with one dot. In Chinese, it's the character. In the Chinese character. So the character big or ta, and the character tai, which means wife, it's just with one dot difference in the Chinese characters. In Japanese, something is very strange. Taro. Like Momotaro-san.
就是太郎，一基友啊，我们这边有这个棒球那个的，就叫一基友。
We have someone, the baseball player is called Ichiro.
太郎比较大呢，还是一郎比较大？
So like
太郎比较大 ，OK。
The biggest son or the
一郎比较小，但一郎是
the first brother.
一郎是排行第二。
So the first brother is number second. So it's different from our
在日本的时候
thinking.
Past life.
In my past life, when I was in Japan, I was called Omori Taro.
就叫大生太郎，大生太郎。
So Taro is the eldest son.
我出生在秦马县，日本的秦马县。
In the prefecture, Chima.
所以我有一个弟子叫做陈燕，他在日本。
I have a disciple, and her name is Chen Yan.
大身家的秦马县大身家。其中有 Omoritaro.
She has the family tree of this Omori family, and there was a Omoritaro, which had no descendants. He was a general.
他跟着池田信长的一个将军。
He was a general
是一个武士，所以呢，
of 池田信长。
那个
He was a shogun, I believe.
跟这个渡边一郎，跟这个
And the 3 Japanese generals, ghosts that followed X.
我的后辈，他们是明治时代的人，有一个是明治时代的人。
They're from a Mingzi era. They were they were later generations from Omoritaro, because Omoritaro was also a general, also a shogun. And the 3 samurais that were the head of ghosts of the X hall would kneel when they see me. You know that I am the earlier generation, and they're the later generation. 池田信长。
我们不用太盲目，要有智慧啊！老王开车碰上大雾，简直伸手不见五指。
We shouldn't be blind. We should have wisdom.
跟着前面的车子，我们经常这样子，碰到大雾，前面有
when it's misty, you know, Xiaowang was just following the car in front of him, and this happens often to us. And then the car in front of him all of a sudden stopped, and Wang couldn't stop and hit the car in front of him. And then he said that the mist was so heavy, how could you stop suddenly so that I hit you? And then the driver said, but what are you talking about? Why are you driving to my garage? In a heavy mist, you were following a car, and the car was driving into a garage, and you're following him still. So that's being blind. So the ghosts of the X Hall were blind, and they came to my house. They didn't know that I was the king of all ghost kings. I am the ultimate ghostbuster, and that you dare to come, so you're looking for death. So I really undermine those 5 heads of ghosts.
我都可以拿他们来比，什么黄金钱，砍掉你的头。
黄金钱 I can cut.
娘子，砍掉你的头。
Cut their head. 林娘子 cut your head.
中村义武，砍掉你的头。
中村义武 cut your head.
渡边一郎，砍掉你的头。
渡边一郎 cut your head.
小林，砍掉你的头。
And 小林 Also chop off your head, all of your heads.
我都敢砍他们的头，他们不敢来赶我，不敢来找我。
I dare to
要找我其实很
cut off their heads, and they don't dare to come find me. Actually, it's very simple. Just ask a beautiful ghost to find me, then I will definitely take on them or play with them. But the other ghosts, I would chop their heads down. How come I cry for a moment and laugh for another moment? I almost gone mad. A woman told me that my first boyfriend was selling wonton, and after we broke up, I never eat wonton anymore. You know wonton, right?
怎么念？馄饨。我有时候这个音抓不准啊，请大家原谅。
Sometimes my pronunciation is not quite accurate, but please forgive me. And the second boyfriend was opening an internet cafe. And after we broke up, I don't get on the internet again. And then this current boyfriend said, well, then you cannot leave me because I'm selling clothes. Because she has to wear clothes, right?
所以有时候啊，不能够一律用这种方式去做。
So sometimes it's not one thing applied for everything.
当然，他们就
when the thousands of soldiers and horses finding me, they're not running away, but they're all chopped off their heads. But when these ghost troops went to see Master Lian Han, then it's a different matter. So you can use the same method. But if you use that troop to find me, then the result would be different. Then I would chop all of their heads off. And before I leave, I would do protection, and I would do ceremonial demarcation, and all the protectors protecting me. Then I will not be afraid of your ghost troops.
所以大家平时啊，要怎么样子？临终的时候怎么走？怎么教导你？
You have to train, and you need to know what you have to do at the time of death, and you need to be clear and mindful of it. You need to know what to do. The teacher asked Xiaoming, when you take the test, do you use your brain? And Xiaoming asked, what's going on? You know, in the true false, why did you say all right? And because in the test, it's written if you answer wrong, then scores will be taken off. So that's why he answered right. For true and false, so circle and X on the test, true and false. If your answer is wrong, then of course you will lose some scores. So that's why sometimes you cannot be blind, or you cannot be unclear, like those who are still following acts. They are still blind. Think about it. So think about it. That in that hall, it was written Protector's Hall. But what's enshrined inside, say it yourself, it's the mighty, illustrious spirits, ghosts, and then the statues of the 5 heads of ghosts. So that means the ghosts are your protectors, because inside the protector hall you should have enshrined the 5 Herukas, the 8 Vidyarajas or the wisdom kings, and all the protectors and heavenly gods. Then that would be right. But you use the ghosts as your protectors. So, Master Lien Tong, please bring that and show. Let me show it to everyone again. The one that had the picture of the protector hall and the altar inside. These photos were taken by Lien Tong's father. As we all know, Master Lien Tong's father was being infested by the ghosts and kept telling him to die. I couldn't stand it anymore. So this is outside. The sign said Protector Hall, right? And inside, what's enshrined is this. And here it's written, the mighty, illustrious spirit or ghost. What are the spirits? Ghost. This is Wang Jingqian, the 5 heads of ghosts. This is Li Liangzi. And the middle 3 are the Japanese ghosts. The 3 Japanese ghosts. So inside the protector hall is the Zhong Yu Ling Xian He, the illustrious spirits, all spirits. And yet there are still true Buddha disciples that are following her and worshipping this ghost. And she did not enshrine Herukas and protectors inside the protector hall. Instead, she enshrined ghosts. And this black ghost tablet, and she admitted that this is a tombstone of Tianmu temple. It's the temple of ghosts in Taiwan. And she brought that tombstone of a ghost temple and brought it to her place to enshrine and worship. And when she performed divination or psychic abilities, she asked the ghosts, and there's still fellow disciples and even educated people following her to worship the ghost. And this is on her own website. So that was the tombstone of a ghost temple in Taiwan, Tianmu. And then she enshrined it at her own home. And Tu Bian Yiliang was the one that's holding halberd, and Dong Bian Yi was pulling on the knife, and with the shogun sword, that's Shaolin. They were all here. There were the 3 Japanese ghosts.
是丢我们日本人的脸。
This is really
我 past life
horrible because they embarrass a Japanese. Because in my past life I was a Japanese general, Omori Taro.
丢武士的脸。
They really brought embarrassment to the shoguns.
他们也讲道理嘛，你不讲道理的。
Because they're not reasonable.
联东上师的爸爸。
That Master Liantong's dad built the altar for them, so he should be like they owe it to him, right? Because he helped them set up the altar so that they can dwell. I mean, they can stay there, and yet they let him be disturbed by the ghost and to ask him to die. Isn't that unreasonable? And Kelingxiang is here, and the ghosts were also telling her to die. And she just took a fu or talisman from them. And Grandmaster also saved you. So now you're fine. You're safe and fine. At that time, her daughter embraced Kelingxiang and kept telling her, please don't die, please don't die. What will happen to me if you die? There are many people that experience the same thing. And the ghosts kept telling them in their ears to go die. In Seattle, the one who committed suicide, who killed herself. That was also because ghosts were telling her to die. And she was driving her car to the cement pipe. Like that huge brown cement pipe, like now that's being embedded on the road around here for the road construction recently, and she died from it. So today, this afternoon, there were a few people went for spiritual consultation. That there were a few people who were told to go die, and there was someone that's only 16 years old, and his or her mom told him or her, you cannot kill yourself because you're Buddhist. As a Buddhist, you cannot kill. So many people had similar experience. That's blindness. I teach you to worship or to pray to Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, Herukas, Dhammapalas, Dakinis, and heavenly gods, and you don't. And yet, you brought a tombstone from a ghost temple and brought them home and use it as your protector. So what kind of mindset, what do you have? What are you thinking about? So if you're a psychologist, what kind of mindset is this? And yet there's so many people still following her, worshipping the ghost. Let me tell another joke. One day, a friend called me and asked,
我说滚。
skirt in Fukienese. How do you say that? And I replied, "Gun."
裙子啊。
Skirt
就叫
is "gun" in
他又问
Fukienese, but in Chinese
他就
it means something different, like
从此不再打电话
"get out of here." So the person never called again.
另外一个朋友打电话问我。
And one day, someone else called and asked.
鱼头
In Fukienese, how would you say taro?
鱼头这个福建话
Taro in Fukienese is called
他又
o.
问我是问你福建话的鱼头怎么说呢？
I'm asking you, how do you say taro in Fukienese? And I replied, "Oa."
不理我。
And then she also hung up
还有一天
and ignored me.
他又打电话来问我。
And another day, she called again.
怎么说？福建话的鸭子
How do you say duck in Fukienese? And I said, "Ah."
福建话里的鸭子到底怎么说？我说啊啊。
So how do you say duck in Fukienese? I'm asking you this.
又挂了我的电话。
And I replied, "Ah, ah."
好的。
And she hung up
不
again.
讲了。告诉大家。
That's it.
我今天还是不
But
明白。
let me tell you, I don't understand
懂心理学的
until today.
帮世尊的忙。
So if you know psychology, please help Grandmaster. The good Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, Herukas, Dhammapalas, Dakinis, and divinities, you don't enshrine, you don't worship, but you want to worship ghosts.
世尊不知道。
Grandmaster doesn't know
为什么
why,
好好
but
一个人你不当，
the psychologists
你要
may
当
know.
鬼？
You don't want to become a human being, but you want to become a ghost? Why?
这只有心理医生才能够解答。
Maybe only the psychologists can give answers to this.
为什么所有的上师你不跟，偏偏去跟那一个鬼？跟那一个鬼？
Why don't you follow all the masters, but you're following a ghost instead?
这也是心理上的。
There's some
心理医生
problem
才知道。你们能够回答我
with
就
their
回答我，不
mind
能回答我，
that only psychologists
我
would
就说
know.
因为我也不知道。
If you know,
妈，你别迷
you can tell me. If not, that's fine, because I don't know either.
请唱诵组准备。
Money pay me
每
home.
张是有以下法务活动。